Hey guys, it's Lisa and welcome to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to make over some candles. And I'm going to start with this pillar candle here. And I'm going to add some leaves to it. And to do this, if you haven't seen it, I'm going to be doing some of those. People add napkins to them and things like that. By applying heat. So that's what I'm doing here. And these napkins I had in my stash, and I bought them sometime last year. I think I got them from Amazon, so if I can find these, I will link them in the description. But you always, just like when you're decoupaging with these, you always want to only work with one layer. And so you're going to pull, in this case, the back 2 layers off. And because these candles aren't as tall as the as one half of the napkin, I'm just going to tear out above the trees. And I just feel like that has a better look than a straight, sharp edge. And I'm just going to tear that off, and then this will be enough, more than enough, to wrap around the candle. Now the next thing you're going to do is tear a piece of wax paper, and you want the waxy side in. So you'll put that against the image. But I'm just going to wrap this around and see how much I need, and then when I cut it off, that last edge I'm going to tear and not have a straight line. And some images will work okay when you're doing this. This one is not perfect, but I'm just able to tear it just before you get to the next deer. And then I'll just wrap that around and get it as tight on there as I can without tearing it. And then I'm going to wrap it with the wax paper, wax side in, and then I'll apply the heat. So that, I feel like that's probably the trickiest part of this, is just holding it on there and getting it placed where you want it, not letting it slide before you add that wax paper. And again, once I get the napkin placed where I want it, then I'm going to wrap that wax paper around it as tightly as I can get it without moving the image. And then I just wrap this as tight as I can get it wrapped, and then hold it together. And what I've seen done with this is someone will use, or most people will use, an iron. And I have done that before, but I just thought it might work better to use the heat gun. And I have mine on a high setting. You have to be careful not to melt your candle wax too much and leaving it itching. But getting it hot enough that you see that wax melting into it, that's when you know you've got it done well enough. So I just add heat all the way around until the whole thing looks, the wax paper looks kind of clear. And then you just let it sit for just a minute, and then remove the wax paper, and your image will be attached with the wax. And it will not only attach the image to your candle, but because your wax is melting through the napkin, it's also sealed with wax on the outside so that the outside will feel like wax. And then once this has dried enough for you to touch it, then you just kind of lightly smooth it over with your finger. So I have 6 of these, and I'm going to add a different image to each of them. And for the 6th one, I'm going to add a little something different to it. And I couldn't find an image that I wanted to use on this one, or a napkin that I wanted to use, so I decided to take a stamp that I've had. I think I thrifted this one. And I'm stamping it with some green ink, and I'll just put that on the bottom, and then I'll tear out the top and let it dry well. That last stamp didn't stamp good, so because of the way this one is made, it's very forgiving, so I was able to stamp it again. Now, I will say on this one to let the ink dry well, and also use maybe Stays On ink or IOD, a very good quality ink that isn't likely to bleed. So I'm going to be stamping this one, or adding this one to the bottom of the candle, because obviously it's not long enough. That way I can add my embellishment to the top. Now, all of these I'm going to be adding some sort of embellishment, but I want to get them all covered first before I add it. And I'm just going to use the same technique on this. I'll just put the one layer of the napkin. And I actually stamped this on one of those layers that I discarded from the last image. Again, I've seen this done with an iron, and actually saw yesterday for the first time another technique for this. And you do it essentially the same way, but instead of using an iron or a heat gun, they just had a candle and a spoon, and they would put that spoon, hold the spoon over the top of that candle long enough for it to get hot, and then they would apply the image with the back of the spoon. And I thought that was a really good technique. Now, I think I told you guys that for the last one, I was saving this one for the last one, but I realized in editing this that that's not so. So this is the one that I'm going to be using faux leaves. And I thought it would be a good time to try this because with fall being here, and I just found some faux leaves that I really like the look of, and then I'm just adding them one at a time to the napkin. Now, I will say it takes a little longer on this because it's more than just that thin napkin, but as it turned out, these worked really well, and I just think it has such a pretty look on that candle. And here I'm using the wax paper to kind of burnish that in, because you want to make sure it all got really good contact, because once it's dry, it's going to turn loose if it has any area that it doesn't have good contact. Now, I know that recently I've been doing 2 videos a week, and then doing my one of those being my usual one on Tuesdays. But it didn't happen this week because I ended up with COVID, and I just didn't feel like doing it. So I'm better now and getting my Friday one in. So and for anyone who will ask, I went to my follow-up appointment on my knee, and it actually went pretty well. They said that one of the breaks is getting really close to healing. The other break, not so much, but it is improving. And so they did give me the okay to not put weight on it, but to use it for balance, and if I accidentally use up to 25% of my weight, then that's okay. And then I'll have another appointment in 4 weeks, and in 4 weeks, she said, hopefully I'll be ready to start putting 50% weight on it. So I was really excited about that. Honestly, I was hoping that it was healed a lot further, and I would go ahead and be able to do that, but I'm blessed that it is healing, and I'll find out after the breaks are healed if the ACL is going to heal also. So as you can see here, I just keep adding leaves where I feel like it needs it. Now I'm leaving some space at the top because I want to be able to add some embellishment around the top. But here I'm just kind of burnishing it with my finger, and it may feel like it's sticking when you pull it off, but it doesn't. It really works well. Now, I know that most of the cheaper leaves that you can find are really bright colors and maybe don't look so realistic. And if that's the case, go ahead and get the cheaper ones, because there's a very easy, simple technique for painting them. And I think I have a video on that. If I can locate it, I will add that link in the description also. Again, I'm just adding these leaves one at a time until I like the look. Now this is another one that I did that I didn't do a napkin on it. I actually forgot about this one, and but I'm using some very thin vintage lace, and it's very important that you use a very thin one. And I liked using one that had the width that this one had. But I'm just going to wrap it around and cut it the length that it needs to be to cover it. And then hold that very taut around the napkin or the candle, and then wrap it with the wax paper and apply the heat, just as we did with the others. Now again, this is going to take longer than with the napkins, but you want to make sure that you don't get that heat so directly on it that you melt an indentation in it. Now this last one is another napkin, and this is one, I either found this at Walmart last year or Amazon, I'm not sure, but I did order online, and again, I'll try any of these that I can find. I will add them in the description. But I tore out the top of this because, again, it was longer than the candle, so I just tore out just above the image. And this one is such a soft, beautiful napkin, and I think it will make a really good shabby chic Christmas candle. So the first candle that I'm going to embellish is this one that I stamped the trees on the bottom, and I'm going to keep it kind of simple. I'm going to wrap this. This is almost like a jute twine, but it's a little bit thinner and maybe a little less frayed, if that makes sense. And I'm going to wrap it several times around the top, and then I'm going to add more of a snow look to the bottom of this. And if I had been able to get to my crafting supplies better, again, right now I can't get into my garage and have a hard time getting to some of the areas where I keep my things, so I'm just going to make do with the bottom. And what I'm going to do is just added some hot glue, or not some hot glue, but some Mod Podge to the bottom all the way around, and then I sprinkled it with baking soda. And but now I'm going to add a little bit more embellishment to the top, and I'm just taking a few little sprigs, and then I'm going to add some berries to this. So I just hot glue there where I want to add them, and I'm adding just a couple here. And then I'll, once I get that glued on, I will tie my jute around it to help keep it more secure. And then I'll just add some faux greenery and some berries. And there's Winston trying to check out what's going on in his room. He thinks this is his room. But I'm just going to glue those on. And also some berries and little pine cones to finish this off. Now I'm going to finish this one off the same way by tying the jute twine and then adding some extra embellishment. Now this next one, I just used some little stems from a large pick, and this one has that wire. It almost looks like a grapevine, and I'm wrapping that around the bottom and adding some greenery to that. Now, the one with the lace, I'm showing you here what happens when you put too much heat on it, so you need to be a little more patient than I was there. I'll cover that up with an embellishment, but that's what happens when you get that heat gun too close. Now, my first thought was to add some lace around this one, but then I decided I wanted a little bit of not only contrast, but a different fabric to introduce to this. So this is just some strips of sheet. Just took an old bed sheet and stained it with some watered down paint, or some paint drops added to water. So maybe a few tablespoons or something to a bowl, but I just thought that this would be pretty against that lace. And then I'm just going to add some little embellishments there, and this one ends up being a really shabby chic look, and probably my favorite one. And I'm going to be adding some berries to this also. And if you don't like the color of berries, these were just little foam white ones. And I just took an ink pad, a red ink pad, and a little foam brush, and just kind of dotted it on there until I got the look that I wanted. And they actually look more pink colored, which was exactly what I was going for with this one. Next, I will add some lace around the top and bottom of this one, but this is a good thin lace to put on it, but I didn't want the thickness of this. So thankfully with this one, it has a very clear place there that you can cut it into two, and then I'll have one for the top and the bottom. I also love how this one turned out, and all that I did on this one was just tie some, this is not actually jute twine, but it's similar to it, and it's just some that I had thrifted or had it given to me or something. And I'm just going to tie that, wrap it several times around the top and tie that off. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening, and God bless you and your family.